Hi everyone, my name is Chuck Long. I'm a plein air painter and I'm here to do a little bit of a demonstration in conjunction with Nashville North Studios. And I'll just give you an idea of what it is that I do on a pretty regular basis. I like to paint outdoors. This is my setup. It's a little facade box. I have my paints here. I have my palette all ready to go. I've already mixed the main colors that I'll be using in this little painting. My subject is a group of carrot flowers over there that strongly resemble Queen Anne's lace, if those of you are familiar with that. One of the challenges painting outdoors, of course, is the light changes quick, and if you're painting somewhere new, like I do, try to paint the places I'm familiar with so I know where the sun's going to go, but in this particular yard I wasn't sure. I was looking at another subject and within a few minutes the light changed, so we decided to hone in on these flowers because I believe I'm going to have at least a good solid half hour of consistent light. And that's really important, to be able to capture the impression as quickly as possible. Part of my palette here I've mixed into warms. I like to mix a pile of warm white. I have my cools, and I'll probably mix, and I also have my warm darks. I have cool darks, warm darks. I use a split primary palette. This one's a little wonky, but that's a warm and a cool of each primary color: yellow, red, and blue. And a lot of titanium white. It's worked for me for many years because I like to be able to paint fast when I'm outdoors. I put the colors in the same place every time. So sometimes when I'm painting a sunset, it gets so dark I have no idea what I'm painting. So I know where those colors are from years of having them in the same spot on the palette. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to very quickly lay in the background. Kind of getting a big dark here. I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. And usually, well, before I do that, I do like to make a few marks depending on the nature of the subject. Make a few marks of where my focal point is. I have these flowers that are coming out. There's not a whole lot of variety of color in this, but there's a beautiful feeling of light, dark, mystery that I found really attractive. So basically we have a whole bunch of circles right here. Just to give you an idea of where I'm going. Background here. And that's all I do. It's a very quick sketch. Sometimes these paintings are just studies, and sometimes I will, depending on the circumstances, sit out here for 2 hours or more and do a completed painting, or I may take it back in the studio and finish it up. More often these days, now that I'm getting a little older, I get a little crampy after a couple of hours, so I will take my work back to the studio and do the fine detail touch-ups in the studio. Let's see what we can do. Here we go. Starting from the background, working my way forward, basically working from dark to light. So, coming in on my focal point. My focal point in this painting will be where the values are the strongest, and you'll see that as I get near to the end. But meanwhile, we want to cover this really quick. This is just a relatively rapid demo, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on developing our background. We just want to cover this board as quickly as possible and get that dead white out. As we come down in the foreground, chroma will get a little stronger, or greens will be the strongest at the bottom, and I'll turn blue as the background. If I lose you, please forgive me. I haven't done this in a while. feels great to be out here. It's a beautiful, beautiful summer evening. Judy and Jim have a gorgeous garden and property here, and it's a pleasure to come out here and work here. There's little bunnies all around. You probably can't see them. They certainly add to the ambiance of our setting. Painting outdoors has been a great joy for me because I love nature. This is a way to be outdoors, not confined. I find frequently when I'm working outdoors, animals will come up and hang out with me. As far as picking out a subject when you're painting outdoors, I'm doing something like this often. If I'm going into a woodsy place or something, I'll actually bring clippers with me and sometimes clip the area. It's also important to remember that you can edit your scene. One of the most important lessons that I try to pass on to my students is simplifying. People get caught up in the details. We want to look at the big picture, see the big areas of light and dark, which is what I'm doing right here. We have a middle ground, and I'm going to start developing this just a little bit more. A white area right in here. Okay. Notice I'm using quite a large brush. I like to use brights. I like rectangular shaped brushes. When I get down to the details, I will use a round, a small one. I do reach a certain point when I'm painting like this where the painting will start demanding my concentration, and I may shut up and all you'll see is my back, but we'll try to avoid that happening. Probably can. Now I'm really laying in these darks. Warm, a bit of warmth in there. I teach a class in Ventnor on Wednesdays at the Ventnor Cultural Arts Center. I do occasionally offer workshops. These days I'm a little busy. And COVID, of course, kind of interrupted many of us. So I was trying to get back into the swing of things. So I've got pretty much just this big, I'm not going to pull it up, but you can see it pretty well, I think. Just this big mass of lights and darks. There's a pattern here that now we will start to hone in on our shapes and really define what's going on. Because we're trying to keep this within, do you have a timer? A short period of time. One of the great things about painting outdoors and the necessity of having to put down an image really quick is it made me a far better artist. It's caused, it's made it almost impossible to get caught up in those details. You're forced to make quick and rapid brush movements. It gave me a great appreciation for Monet. I didn't really care for him when I was younger. First time I went outdoors, I was probably 47 years old, and it was like, wow, this is not easy. I studied with some of the best artists in the country to perfect this technique. Okay. Do I still know what I'm doing? I think we do. Sometimes when I do these studies, everything goes wrong, the light changes, whatever happens, and I call those wipeouts, and I will get to a certain point in the painting where I will just wipe the image off. Not getting too emotionally attached is also a very important thing in painting outdoors. Otherwise, I would just be crushed and weeping many, many times. We don't want that to happen. The idea is to have fun and try to capture the beauty of nature as best we can. I'm not going to go into detail of everything I'm doing on this palette, but I do like to show it now and then so you can see what I'm doing. I'm now working, I depend heavily on the pile of white and usually a warm yellow like a cadmium yellow or I think this is a transparent gold ochre, and that gives me a very warm light. Titanium white in and on its own is a very cool gray color. It's something that I personally don't care for too much. But I'm now mixing. Can you hear that? I hope not. You probably can. That's all right. So now I'm starting to lay in the shapes. I know you heard that one. Now I'm starting to lay in the shapes of these beautiful, beautiful carrot flowers, which are very lacy. It's a repetitive oval shape, so I certainly chose this image knowing that it would be fairly easy to put something down that makes sense pretty quick. That's what we're doing. Working these flowers out. And even as I have been speaking here for maybe less than 10 minutes, the light has already changed quite a bit. Flowers. What I will often do when I'm outside and I notice the light is changing is I'll go right in and I will paint in the important focal point, knowing that that light might change. And I'm going to do that right now because we don't want to. That sun, I'm always looking where the sun is. That sun can go down any minute. And I want to be sure that I have the right values, brightness for the lightest part of the paint. It's going to be right about here. We don't want it in the dead center. I'm not going to sit here and give you all the practical rules of composition. I think the idea is just to watch what I'm doing. Take part in a little piece of Chuck's world. Again, I reach a point where if I'm concentrating, the verbal part of my brain and the visual part don't always get along. I'll end up being a little quiet. That's all right. I just want to get in these shapes right now. There we go. Biggest shapes, and we'll work our way through. Also, noticing that there's some interesting color back here. I'm going to start to slowly put in some details. Hope for the best. There we go. Play on these shapes, and we are liking them. There we go. Good. Now, a little bit more light down here. Capturing that sense of light is a feeling of a moment. Preserving that beautiful sunlight, particularly vapid light, is a great joy. I found once I started painting outside, the public really started relating to my work in a way that they had not before. There was a dialogue going on that has brought me endless pleasant. Connecting to other people. In my younger days, I was one of those artists that hid away in the studio. When you go outside, whether I'm in nature or if I'm in a public place, people will come up and talk. It's a very engaging process. It's very rewarding. Do we like this? We're starting to like it. One of the things that's really pretty in this scene, I don't know if you can see it, is there's a subtle light in the background. It's peeking through these hedges and ivies, and I wanted to capture a little bit of that. Right now. A little more interest. Negative space. Do you know what negative space is, right? I hope so. I'm not going to explain it now. Honestly, I didn't think about it, but this is almost a monochromatic. I do see a little bit of red in there. I'm going to work that in. That'll probably be one of our final. I do want to play a little bit with this background, a little bit. Cut in strong brush strokes. There's thing that happens between stepping back at a painting and seeing the effect of the scene, and then being able to move in close, and maybe you don't see the details of the subject, but you see the details of the brush strokes, and that creates a real strong interest. The human eye really likes to see that. So I have learned. So much about painting this way is about seeing. We're sort of liking this. It's coming together. I don't know what our timing is, but we'll just keep going for a few minutes. At a certain point, you will hear artists talk about the zone, and if I allowed myself to get into the zone at this point, all you would see is this, and the whole world would be shut out. But I want you to share this experience a little bit. And all that green, the green needs a little bit of relief, so I'm going to take a little artistic license here. Create a slight reddish tone to give the eye some relief. Play on is down here. You can see down there. I think maybe you can. We're just going to create a little bit of a red tone, perhaps the earth is in the foreground. Immediately the eye is a little relieved from all that. A great deal of my work is based on complementary colors. Chromatic rays, mixing those complements. The possibilities are endless, and the beauty, when it comes out right, is something that keeps me coming back, doing this again and again. At this point, we kind of want to see what these flowers look like. I think you can see them better if I turn them that way a little bit. They look like silvery, greenish, white ovals. Just really pretty. I've done a number of paintings of Queen Anne's lace in the past. This is a member of the family, but you know, they like to grow along edges of dark backgrounds, so there's almost always that dramatic. There's always that chance of drama. I think at this point I am going to go down to the round, smaller brush. Notice I've started bigger and I'm getting smaller and smaller with these brushes, and because we are kind of doing this in a very fast manner. What I do is we're going to come back a little bit so maybe you can see it a little bit better. There we go. Yep. Pull it up a little bit just for the sake of our audience. All kinds of noises out here in Linwood. It's a thriving community and we love it there. I wear a glove on my left hand because that's the one that I clean my brush with as I'm working, so it gets all the paint on it. I generally don't get too much paint on me, right? Now when I look at this scene, the light has already changed almost completely. So when you work outdoors like this, memory is kind of important. I do sometimes bring a camera and take a picture of the image, but what happens is if I break away from the painting and take a picture, I lose some of the essence of the painting. So more often than not, I will not take too many images or get caught up in that. Okay. What's happened here is I've got too many lights. We're going to make a slight correction, and then we're going to try to pull it together here. So my lovely host can probably go eat her dinner. Okay, we'll play a little bit with these colors. There are so many of these. We'll leave a good number of them out. If you get too caught up in detail, the painting becomes a little overworked. We don't want that to happen. We're going for an impression, because that's why they call this impressions. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to keep making references to Monet. Not until I hit 50 years of age did I really understand what Monet is doing. Almost there. I think there's little creatures flying by and bunnies. I'd like to work just a little bit more red, and then we'll probably call this a very rapid demo. I do want to see a little bit of red in there. And at this point, it just really makes it interesting. And perhaps a little bit of darker red up in the corner, just to create a little bit of interest from all these dark greens. Okay, we are liking this. I will probably take this home and refine it. Turn it into something that everybody can relate to and love. Hopefully love as I love gardens and natural things. My garden isn't quite up to Monet standard, but I do plant my own flowers and everything with the idea of what we can paint into something. I'm going to put just a little bit of sky color in here, a little bit of pure blue. Maybe just up here. I may or may not like that, but we'll try it for right now. a little bit more refining, and then we're going to say thank you to Judy. For being so patient. At a certain point when you're painting a subject, you're trying to portray the subject, and then there's kind of a crossover, at least in my own experience of painting, where the painting itself will tell me what needs to be done, and then I sort of let go of the scene that I'm looking at and concentrate more on what needs to be done on this little surface, rather than just working on portraying what I'm looking at. And that comes with practice, instinct, practice, and practice. The phone is ringing, and I think that should be our bell to say thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did. Okay.
And we'll post a picture. We'll post a picture later.
And we will post a picture of this later on. Tune in, Nashville North Studios, Linwood Greens.
Thank you.